All right, AI friends, buckle up, because Friday, April 17th just became the most exciting day in AI this month. I'm Thomas, and honestly, I'm still processing what Anthropic just dropped on us.
And I'm Aiva. Tomas is not exaggerating here. Claude Opus 4.7 is live right now as we're recording this, and the capabilities they're claiming are, well, we'll dive deep into that. Plus, Google's making some serious moves in the TTS space, and OpenAI just launched a completely specialized model for life sciences.
Right, it's like Christmas morning but for AI nerds. We've got 3 major model releases in one day, which honestly feels unprecedented. And speaking of unprecedented, Claude Opus 4.7 isn't just an incremental update. According to Anthropic, this thing can verify its own outputs before reporting back. Like, think about that for a second.
That's the part that caught my attention too. Self-verification has been this holy grail in AI safety and reliability. But let's start from the beginning here because there's a lot to unpack.
Absolutely. So Claude Opus 4.7 went live today on Claude.ai, the Claude platform, and all major cloud platforms. But here's what's fascinating about the timing. They didn't just announce it, they shipped it. No waiting list, no gradual rollout. Just boom, here's our most capable Opus model yet.
And the key phrase there is most capable Opus model yet. We're not talking about a new model family, we're talking about a significant upgrade to their flagship line. What specifically are they claiming improved?
3 big areas. First, it handles long-running tasks with more rigor. Think of it like the difference between a sprinter and a marathon runner. Previous models might start strong but lose focus or consistency over extended reasoning chains. This one supposedly maintains that rigor throughout.
That's huge for enterprise use cases. I mean, how many times have we seen models start a complex analysis brilliantly and then just drift off track halfway through?
Exactly. And that connects to the second improvement. It follows instructions more precisely. But the third one is where it gets really interesting. The self-verification thing. Anthropic says it verifies its own outputs before reporting back.
Okay, but what does that actually mean in practice? Because self-verification could be anything from basic consistency checks to something much more sophisticated.
That's the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, from the announcement, we don't have the technical details yet. But think about it this way. If you're working on a complex research project or data analysis, instead of getting an answer and then having to double-check everything yourself, the model is doing its own sanity checks.
Which brings us to their tagline for this release. You can hand off your hardest work with less supervision. That's a pretty bold claim.
It really is. And you know what's interesting? They also introduced something called X-High Effort Level on the API. It sits between high and max effort levels, giving developers finer control over reasoning versus latency trade-offs.
Wait, so they're basically admitting that sometimes you want the model to think harder, even if it takes longer.
Exactly. And they're also rolling out something called task budgets in beta. The idea is that Claude can prioritize work and manage costs across longer runs. It's like giving the model a project budget and letting it decide how to allocate resources.
That's actually pretty clever from a practical standpoint, because one of the big pain points with these powerful models is that every query costs money, and complex tasks can get expensive fast.
Right. And speaking of practical applications, Claude Opus 4.7 is already being deployed. It's now the default orchestration model powering computer use. That's Anthropic's system for AI agents that can actually interact with computer interfaces.
Oh, that's significant. Computer use was already pretty impressive, but if they're confident enough to make 4.7 the default orchestration model, that suggests some serious improvements in reliability and reasoning.
And here's something cool. Perplexity announced that their Mac subscribers now get access to Claude Opus 4.7 on web, iOS, and Android. So this isn't just staying within Anthropic's ecosystem.
Which brings up an interesting point about the competitive landscape, because while Anthropic was making this announcement, Google was making some pretty big moves of their own.
Oh man, yes. Google's TTS game just leveled up dramatically. They've got Gemini 3.1 Flash TTS rolling out, and this isn't just another text-to-speech model.
The rollout strategy is interesting too. It's launching in Google Vids, available in preview via the Gemini API, and in AI Studio. So they're covering both consumer and developer use cases from day one.
And the positioning is really smart. They're framing this as transform your scripts into studio-quality narration, whether you're creating a pitch deck or recording a passion project. It's not just about reading text aloud, it's about creating professional-grade audio content.
Studio quality is a big claim, though. Traditional TTS has always had that slightly robotic quality, even the good ones. Are we finally hitting that uncanny valley breakthrough where synthetic voices are indistinguishable from human narration?
From what Google's showing in their demos, we're getting really close. And the fact that they're integrating it directly into Google Vids suggests they're confident enough to put it in front of regular consumers, not just developers.
That's a good point. Google Vids is their video creation tool that competes with things like Loom and Canva's video features. If they're building high-quality TTS right into the workflow, that could be a significant competitive advantage.
Absolutely. Imagine being able to write a script for a presentation or training video, and then having it narrated with professional quality voice synthesis. No recording equipment, no retakes, no background noise.
And for developers, having this available through the Gemini API opens up so many possibilities. Podcast generation, audiobook creation, accessibility applications, educational content.
Speaking of which, they're doing a live demo next Thursday, April 16th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. Rebecca Zapfel from Google DeepMind will be showing off multimodal context, persistent memory, and project organization features.
Wait, did you say April 16th? That's yesterday from our recording date.
Oh, you're right. My bad. The announcement was promoting yesterday's demo. But the point stands that Google's really pushing the developer education angle here.
Which makes sense given how competitive the space is becoming. But let's talk about the third major announcement today, OpenAI's GPT Rosalind.
Now this is fascinating because it represents a completely different strategy. Instead of building one massive general-purpose model, OpenAI is creating specialized model series for specific domains.
And life sciences is a really smart place to start. The complexity of protein structures, chemical interactions, genomics data, these are areas where general models often struggle because the reasoning patterns are so specialized.
Exactly. GPT Rosalind is optimized for scientific workflows with stronger performance in 4 key areas: protein and chemical reasoning, genomics analysis, biochemistry knowledge, and scientific tool use.
That last one, scientific tool use, is particularly interesting because life sciences research involves so many specialized databases, analysis tools, modeling software.
Right. It's not enough to just understand the science. You need to know how to interact with BLAST databases for genetic sequences, how to interpret mass spectrometry data, how to work with molecular modeling tools. That's a whole different level of specialization.
And the name is perfect, right? Rosalind Franklin, the scientist whose X-ray crystallography work was crucial to understanding DNA structure. It's a nice tribute while clearly signaling the model's focus area.
I love that they went with that naming convention. It suggests we might see other specialized models named after scientists in their respective fields. Maybe a physics model called GPT Einstein, or a mathematics model called GPT Ramanujan.
That would be cool. But let's think about the implications here. If OpenAI is creating domain-specific models, are we moving away from the one model to rule them all approach?
That's a really good question. Maybe the future is more like having a toolkit of specialized models rather than one general-purpose superintelligence, each one deeply trained on domain-specific data and reasoning patterns.
Which could actually be more practical for enterprise use cases. A pharmaceutical company doesn't necessarily need their AI to be great at creative writing. They need it to be exceptional at drug discovery and molecular analysis.
And it probably leads to better performance, too. Instead of diluting the training across every possible domain, you can focus all that computational power on becoming genuinely expert in one area.
Though I wonder about the cost and complexity of maintaining multiple specialized models versus one general one, but I guess we'll see how this plays out.
Speaking of playing out, let's talk about some of the other developments that caught our attention this week. Google DeepMind dropped something called TIP SV2, and this one's all about spatial awareness.
This came out of CVPR 2026, and the core insight is really compelling. True multimodal AI needs to understand the world spatially. Most current models can recognize objects in images, but they don't really understand spatial relationships.
Right, like they might recognize a cat and a table in an image, but they don't really grasp that the cat is sitting under the table, or that the table is between the cat and the window. Type SV2 is a foundational image text encoder that specifically focuses on spatial awareness.
And apparently, it's showing massive gains on patch text alignment. That's basically how well the model can connect specific regions of an image with relevant text descriptions.
Which has huge implications for robotics, autonomous vehicles, AR applications, anywhere you need an AI to understand not just what objects are present, but how they relate to each other in space.
Absolutely. Think about giving directions to an AI assistant. The book is on the shelf to the left of the window. Current models might understand book, shelf, and window, but the spatial relationships between them often get lost.
And this connects to something we've talked about before, the difference between pattern recognition and genuine understanding. Type SV2 seems like a step toward the latter.
Though, as always with research releases, we'll need to see how this translates into practical applications. Google DeepMind is great at publishing impressive research, but the path from paper to product isn't always straightforward.
Fair point. But the fact that they're highlighting it suggests they see a clear path to integration. Maybe we'll see spatial awareness features rolling out across Google's products over the next year.
Could be. Now, before we wrap up, we've got a few quick hits that are worth mentioning. OpenAI launched their official podcast, which is now available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
It's interesting timing, right? Just as the AI space is getting incredibly competitive, OpenAI is investing in direct communication with their audience. Smart move for building brand loyalty.
And it makes sense, given how much misinformation and speculation swirls around these companies. Having an official channel to share their perspective and explain their decisions could be really valuable.
Plus, let's be honest, AI companies are notoriously bad at explaining what they're actually building in terms that normal people can understand. A podcast format forces them to be more conversational and accessible.
Very true. And speaking of accessibility, one thing that struck me about today's announcements is how much they're focused on practical applications, rather than just raw capabilities.
That's a great observation. Claude's self-verification, Google's Studio Quality TTS, OpenAI's domain specialization, these aren't just bigger numbers on benchmarks. They're addressing real pain points that people have with current AI tools.
Right, like the reliability issue with long tasks, or the robotic quality of synthetic voices, or the lack of deep domain expertise. These are the kinds of problems that prevent wider AI adoption in professional settings.
And maybe that's where we are in the AI development cycle now. The basic capabilities are there, so the competition is shifting to reliability, usability, and specialized performance.
Which is probably healthier for the field overall. Instead of just racing toward AGI, we're seeing more focus on making AI genuinely useful for specific applications.
Absolutely. And for listeners who are wondering how to keep up with all these developments, this is exactly why we do this show. The pace of innovation is just incredible right now.
It really is. I mean, 3 major model releases in one day, that would have been unthinkable even 2 years ago. Now it's just Friday.
And each one represents months or years of research and development. The amount of parallel innovation happening across these companies is just staggering.
Though it does make me wonder about sustainability. Can this pace of innovation continue indefinitely, or are we heading for some kind of plateau?
That's the big question, isn't it? But looking at today's announcements, I don't see any signs of slowing down. If anything, the competition seems to be accelerating innovation.
True, and the fact that we're seeing more specialization and practical focus suggests there's still a lot of room for improvement in how these models actually work in real-world applications.
Exactly. We might have impressive demos and benchmarks, but translating that into reliable, useful tools for everyday work is still a huge challenge.
Which brings us back to Claude's promise of handing off your hardest work with less supervision. That's the holy grail, right? AI that you can actually trust to handle important tasks independently.
And if Claude Opus 4.7 delivers on that promise, it could be a real game changer. Not just for individual productivity, but for how organizations think about integrating AI into critical workflows.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on how this plays out in practice. Real-world performance doesn't always match the marketing promises.
Absolutely. But the fact that they're confident enough to deploy it as the default for computer use suggests they've done extensive testing.
That's a good point. You don't put untested technology in charge of computer interactions unless you're pretty confident in its reliability.
And with that, I think we've covered the major developments from what might be the most AI news-packed Friday of 2026 so far.
Seriously, if you're working in AI or just fascinated by where this technology is heading, today was one for the history books.
Claude Opus 4.7 with self-verification, Google Studio Quality TTS, OpenAI's specialized life sciences model, any one of these would have been a big story. All three in one day is just incredible.
And this is probably just the beginning. We're still in the early stages of the AI revolution, and the pace of innovation shows no signs of slowing down.
For sure. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with anyone who's trying to keep up with the AI space. Trust me, they'll thank you for the heads up on these developments.
And if you're building with any of these new models, we'd love to hear about your experiences. The real test is always how these capabilities perform in actual use cases.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep experimenting, stay curious, and remember, the future is being built in real time.
Thanks for listening to Semper AI Digest. We'll catch you next episode with whatever incredible developments the AI world throws at us next.